commercially. My name is Idris Wilson. I do a lot of things. That should be my title. I'm honored to see very healthy people, very happy people here today. I'm also honored to say we have great presence of amazing leaders of our nation. That should be Tanzania, the Great Republic. So tonight we have the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ibrahim Mulamula, with us. We also have the Ambassador of Tanzania in USA, Honorable Dr. Elsie Kanka. I think she's definitely giving us the instructions of how to navigate USA. The managing director of CIDB. I think he's outside as well. Within time, I'll keep mentioning a lot of people because most of the people. And with us also, great Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba. Hapo.
Thank you so much. Why don't we please stand and welcome our distinguished guests here this afternoon. Please remain standing. At this time, we will begin with an opening prayer. I would like to welcome Dr. Annie Fernandez. We will begin with the first prayer. Help me welcome Dr. Annie Fernandez.
Let's all pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this is the day that we can rejoice and be glad in it. Lord, we commit this day into your hands, O Father. This is a great historical event between United States of America and Tanzania. Oh Lord Jesus, as we pray for this launch, oh God, I pray it will be the successful one for this great we pray with the video guided and with the system throughout this whole launch, oh God. We thank you and we bless you in Jesus' name.
And now I would like to welcome Idris for the second prayer. Also, while you're here, please remember to take pictures, use the hashtag NowLiveUSA throughout the night. Feel free to tag it on Instagram, on Twitter. That way we can share all the good news about NowLive in the US.
This part was supposed to be for an imam. That is a great leader of Muslim religion. I am his son. So I will take the honors. For those who are non-Muslims, you can put your hands together as I start this prayer. And the Muslims, I'm sure you know how to do it. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه امين وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب الدين وقنا عذاب القبر اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما رزقتنا وصلى الله عليه وسلم. You may sit. I am aware of those who are fasting. I should have been fasting as well today. I am not. So if it happens, I will be aware to check on the details of what I'm preparing, but I am not even sure what time it is right now. I am still jet lagged, so I will do check on the details as well. For now, we can proceed with everything.
Thank you very much, Edith. Before we begin, we would also like to have a performance. I asked Idris to sing for us, but Benjamin did not approve. So we have a special guest amongst us who is a performer. He's a Tanzanian artist. His name is Gregory. He's a Tanzanian American artist, producer, and curator. He has a fuse among Afro rhythms with modern pop, electric beats, a music style he loves as Afro-Beat. Gregory's collaborative projects have been featured in Billboard, Favor, Complex, OK Africa, and premiered on Beats One, BBC, and One Extra Radio. Please help me in welcoming Gregory. Right now.
Hello, welcome. Karibu Sana, my name is The Wave, and this is my boy, young boy cousin, and we're here to provide some vibes for you. Is that okay? Yeah? You can make a little bit of noise, it's okay? Yeah? Get your body moving, get your energy going.
Miaka kama 10 iliyopita, ndo vijana tulikuwa tunasema wanaetikio.
Alright, we're gonna rock one more. We can get that sound a little bit higher. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, nah, nah. See, I was born in a place called Tanzania. My dad came from the States. He met my mom in Arusha. They got married. And this company means a lot to me because to be able to send money back home, to be able to stay connected financially is a huge thing. You feel me? They didn't want to talk to me. I was under siege. Everybody want me, yeah. Anymore. Under the siege, under the sea, gone to the core. Oh yeah, I didn't wanna play anymore. I'm like, hold up, come on off the waist, so they talking. Waiting for option, talk to my conscience, that's not an option. Cause we just moved in next door, yeah. And we don't want no problems, and I wanna go higher, higher. And this is my desire, oh yeah. Some of them try to deny us, deny us. No, no. 1, 2, 3, you cannot break me. All of the hate and wahala will not devastate me. I got the strength from my mama, that's the way she raised me. Love me or hate me, baby or with me. Hey, Shokoro, Dabadi, Dabada, Dobolo, Zanku, Shaku, baby drop down wine to the floor. Shomolo, Dobolo, hey, I'm the African gangster. Hey. Such a pleasure. All right, such a pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. No animals were harmed to create that outfit. With that said, I would like to also introduce, and this part I have to really read. Most of our ministries have so many categories, and people only remember the ones that benefit them directly. So I have to read the whole title. This is the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Natural Resources. We only remember tourism, natural resources. As we said, Dr. Pindi. Is this the new mode of the light? Okay. Could we keep them on before we do the video? Also, we have with us language. We have the Minister of Investment, that's the part I begin, and there's also Industry and Trade, Dr. Ashatu Kibet. However, I do remember barter trade, that part. Also with us, we have the Ambassador of USA in Tanzania, Dr. Donald Wright. Thank you for the great USA you give to us.
Thank you. And without further ado, if you don't mind turning the lights down, we have a special video for you. Also, please remember to take photos, follow us on Instagram. You can also follow Aegis on Instagram. You're going to share your Instagram handle. You should be shy tonight, but I think there's another video, the Nala team video. If we want to introduce the Nala team, is the Nala team video.
I think it's the one which starts with "we are hiring." We have the Minister of Investment, please.
Why don't you tell us a little bit where you're from and what brought you to New York this week?
Okay. This is a very nice story. It is my first time in New York. I was transit from here. So I landed yesterday morning. I only managed to get to my hotel room at night. It wasn't high traffic, but the buildings are just so tall. I have been enjoying my way. It's the first time I have walked from the airport to downtown Manhattan.
Thank you. We're ready for the video.
Reality. It takes drive, commitment, and resilience to make it happen. All qualities we African people have plenty of. Financial support from family and friends can make a huge difference too. Last year, $48 billion was sent from overseas to family and friends in sub-Saharan Africa. Every cent given was earned by people who decided that while missing family would be hard, missing opportunity would be harder. People living far from home, motivated by a vision of the future they wanted to build for their loved ones. Naitwa Benjamin, founder of Nala. I grew up in Tanzania and watched how mobile payments transformed the world around me. I wanted to participate. I left my home to pursue opportunities granted by those who believed in me. I was afforded scholarships to study at some of the best universities in the world, and got the chance to work with some of the people I used to read about in newspapers. To this day, I feel incredibly blessed and grateful for those who have supported my journey. Returning to Tanzania, I had one burning question on my mind. How do we bring those same opportunities to millions of people across the continent I love? Africa is the most expensive continent in the world to send money to. Of the 48 billion that was sent, we lost 3.3 billion on fees last year. It doesn't need to be this way, and we believe it's time for something better. In 2018, we launched a personal finance app, which now has more than 250,000 users in Tanzania and Uganda. We've grown an incredible community who've helped us understand what really matters when it comes to mobile money. Now, we're taking the same approach to building our new money transfer app, Nala Money Transfer. It's our sole focus to help you get the most from every cent you send or receive. A global community of Africans will build the foundation for this movement. We're often underestimated, pushed aside, told to wait for others to solve our problems. It's time to change the narrative around our future. That's what Nala represents.
And now I'm pleased to introduce Benjamin Fernandez. Benjamin is a Tanzanian award-winning speaker and entrepreneur. Benjamin grew up in Tanzania, then earned scholarships that took him to America for the first time at age 17. Benjamin is the youngest African to ever be accepted to the Stanford Graduate School of Business and History at the age of 21. He holds an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business and an Exec Ed from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, being the first Tanzanian to attend both institutions. Fernandez has previously been a national TV personality in Tanzania and after worked at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in the United States. Benjamin is the founder and the CEO of Nala, a financial tech company that has entities in 7 countries around the world. Nala is backed by some of the world's leading technology investors, including Y Combinator, Baseball Partners, and Bessemer. Nala was the first East African company to be accepted in the Y Combinator. In 2020, Fernandez was listed as the 15th most influential Tanzanian in the country. On a personal note, I've known Benjamin for about 2 years, and I'll be honest, most people think Benjamin is Kenyan. Like myself, Benjamin is, he's just like us. I'm also Kenyan, so it's easy to think Benjamin is just like me. Kenyans are currently Nala's largest customers in the United Kingdom. With further ado, please help me in welcoming The CEO and founder of NAWA, Mr. Jimmy Fernandez.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out this afternoon. It's an absolute pleasure. As I always say in my introduction, what's up everybody? We are here once again chilling.
Oh my goodness.
I need to follow protocol, so honorable Mr. Bonner, Mr. Finance, and all the figures that are here, all protocol observed, Mr. Foreign Affairs, Mr. Trade, Mr. Tourism, I know there's somebody and I'm going to get beyond that afterwards, so I apologize. Master of Life, Investment, and Investments, and yeah, CEOs, I tell the team, don't even call me Bambi. I don't even call it Bambi. But I have to follow all protocols. Ambassador Pandra, thank you so much for helping us make this happen today. So I wanted to take you guys on a journey. I came to America for the first time, and it was 12 years ago, the first time I was here. And one of my professors is actually in this room today. Was the first person. Please, man, up. What you have to understand is, I used to be this kid who used to get in trouble a lot when I was in school, in high school. I got in trouble so much. I think I hold the record in my high school for the most suspensions in school history. And the teachers used to tell me we'll see where you go, we'll see if you ever make it. And the university I went to gave me a 3-month probation period. He said, look, you can do 3 months. If you do well, you stay. If you don't do well, you're out. I said, okay. And Dr. Brennan was one of my professors. And so ever since I came to this country the first time, today the first one in my home country, it's a country that gives you so much opportunities, the United States of America. I think talent is everywhere, but opportunity isn't. And so a lot of us in this room are very privileged with opportunities being given. And what we do with it, I think, is the responsibility on how you get that in terms of the world. And so 12 years ago when I moved to the United States the first time, I didn't know what would come up from it. I was just a student running around, but because I had probation, I knew I needed to do well, or else I'd be sent back home. So, there was this thing on my head about trying to perform well, and so I really worked really hard in school, worked hard academically, and then I had scholarships to different institutions that you guys heard hear about earlier. But looking back, when I was starting to do knowledge, the biggest question I used to ask myself was, what's more important for me individually as a Tanzanian? I feel really privileged with opportunities that have been given as a Tanzanian here in the United States, but I wanted to build something back home that would matter for our people. And so that for me was the purpose of why we started NAWA. See, NAWA's my goal is to build a bank for Africans globally. We want to build payments rails that will exist 100 years from today. We're not an international money transfer, we're something bigger than that. That's what most people don't realize. We're starting with sending money home, but there's a bigger vision goal we want to accomplish and we can achieve, and we will achieve as a team. In the audience today is also my mom. My mom is a very young mom, please stand up. My mom and my dad have sacrificed so much for me, and they've never been to any of my events around the world. Because every country I live in, I have no family, right? My family are my friends, right? But in the United States, I don't have any family that lives here. In England, I don't have any family that lives there. So I've been a migrant as well. I carry my Tanzanian passport proudly, and we try to build business, we try to hustle and make things happen as migrant founders in this country. And so today is the first time my mom, a family member, has actually been in the event that we put together. So I really feel proud to have you here, Mom. Welcome. So I'd like to continue by talking about what we've been doing at NAWA. So the global payments landscape is really saturated, it's broken. There's many issues wrong with it. For example, if I told everybody in this room, I'll pay you $1 million if you can send money to 10 African countries right now and get it back in the same day in cash here in the United States, you can't do it. It's 2022, yet payment rails are still broken. And so The big question that a lot of diaspora in the United States say, we want to send money to Tanzania, but we also want them to be able to send back. So, Honorable, you hear the essence, right? Honorable Minister of Finance, is the biggest request we have from the diaspora globally, especially Tanzania diaspora. And my thesis around this is when you can send money both ways, there's going to be informal general economy created. There's going to be more business opportunity created for Africans globally, starting with Tanzanians. Because when people know they can send money and you receive it back, they're going to send more money because they can collect revenues back in the United States. The United States is a country that is great. It's one of the greatest countries in the world, right? And if it's enabling trade with the United States and Tanzania, that's something that we need to prioritize as a nation. Now, we work with regulators across the world in many different countries. We have Kingdom, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Ghana, and more countries that we're working on right now. However, I have to say honestly, it has been difficult sometimes working with regulators back home. And I want to say honestly about this because sometimes the Tanzania we get treated very differently even in our home country. And that needs to change. And that's why I say this publicly in front of a lot of ambassadors and ministers here and members of parliament proudly, but we also need to change as well because if we want to see global trade happening, whether our businesses in technology or not technology will always be part of the business. And it will continue to grow. And so I would like to start seeing more and more push and prioritization for technology companies, not just in the United States, but Tanzania tech founders globally. We have a beautiful art. We come from an incredible country. We have the Serengeti, Zanzibar, Mount Kilimanjaro. We have music artists that are known globally. However, when can we not be known in the technology space globally? That is my question. That is the question I want to leave with all the ministers and members of parliament here today, is when are we going to get those opportunities for founders like myself so we don't have to fight and go against billion-dollar companies, even as a small company, to be able to fight and make stuff happen for our people. We live in a world where we use services that were never built by us or for us. And we have to use them for our own services to send money home today. Right? When can this be built by one of our very own? Right? And now that we're on a mission to increase economic opportunity for Africans globally. Obviously because I'm Tanzanian, we start at home in Tanzania. My request, Honorable Minister of Finance, is that in Tanzania we have something called a payment service provider license, as well as a license for international money transfer for remittances. My request is if there's any possibility for you to speak to Honorable President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, if we can get an authorization to be able to do both the transfers from the United States to Tanzania, but also from Tanzania back to the United States or back out to the world. Because we will increase economic opportunity by enabling trade and global trade that way with Tanzania. And that is something I would like to get in the central bank if possible. However, I don't have the money for all those fees. Hence why, since you're here today, I thought I'd make my request publicly known. Don't ask, you don't get, right? So, I mean, yeah, I don't have those type of coins right now, but hopefully one day, maybe we'll make something happen. So, today is about celebrating all of us in this room today. Nala, a lot of people ask me, what does Nala mean? Nala is derived from Swahili Bantu word that means a beautiful gift. And the premise behind Nala is, it's all the joke I tell my friends is Nakula, because I don't mean, it's a Swahili word, break down Nala. But Nala is also the lioness in Lion King. And what you may not know, given it's the royal court for the president, lionesses hunt more than mere lions. So they provide more for the family. And so can we be a financial provider for people giving access globally? That's the meaning behind the name Nala. And so as we continue here today, I'd like to say thank yous to many different people. I'll do my things at the end, but in short, I would love to thank the Nala team. The Nala team, can you please stand up? You might see a few of us, and the reason why you see a few of us, Ambassador Wright, this is probably for you, is because the rest couldn't get visas. So we got to figure something out. Because, I mean, it's kind of tough. Go to the, everybody hates those American visa appointments. You panic when you show up in the office. Like, you've not done anything wrong, but you're just like, Why are you going to America for what? For who?
And it's actually loud because everybody on the street, they're listening and they're asking you different questions.
There is no privacy in that office. Anyway, Ambassador, thank you for being here. Very much takes that visa situation. But actually, like, now it's thank you, I can sit down. But a lot of our team members couldn't make it here today, and that hurt me. You know why? Because I'm a Tanzanian. Some of the people on our team have never traveled internationally. Some people on our team, their first passport was because of Mala. They got their first passport a week ago. They got their vaccinations. They go to get a visa and got rejected, right? And so, how do we enable Tanzanians globally to be able to access opportunities like these when we also get hindered right at home? Right? I carry a Tanzanian passport, but for example, when we do business in the UK, I have to pay for 7 months of rent up front, versus somebody from the UK or the US can pay for 1 month front. Right? And so it's a lot harder for us to do business and trade globally with these foreign passports. And so through business and trade, I want to see how we can change that on a global scale. So Minister of Investments, that one's for you. How can we enable people to also trade with Tanzania? I think Zanzibar should be one of the biggest places for global trade in technology. We've got an island that's incredible that people around the world want to live in, and we live in a time zone that works for people operating in Europe to work in. And so if we can create some sort of special match or something, I will happily help with that. Finally, I've been talking for way too long, so before I get yelled at, I'd also love to thank some of the investors in the room who have been working really hard in supporting us. Some investors, you'll hear them on the panel later today, but they really some of the people who supported us from the beginning and reached out to us and really helped us make what Nala is today. And so it takes people like you to believe in us and make bets on us, so thank you so much. I've been talking for way too long. I already see that. I already see my eyes getting told other things. But before I wrap up my speech, I guess it was supposed to be a keynote, but I do keynotes on vibes. But thank you all so much for coming. Today we're going to do a test transaction later today, powered by Sila, and so Shamir, thank you for that. And we make history together today, so thank you all so much for coming, and you'll see my face very shortly, so I'll hand it over to them. Okay, before I proceed, I'm supposed to introduce the Honorable Ambassador. So fun story, I met Honorable Ambassador Kanza when I was working in Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2016. What did I do? Oh no. So I met Balali Kanza because we were trying to recruit her. She's an incredible talent, and I think we as Tanzanians are very fortunate to have Balali Kanza. What I love about Balali Kanza is holds to high standards and high expectations, and I love that. You know why? Because if you don't take responsibility, you take orders. And that's the premise that Balali Kanza works. Right? So that's the rule we have in the Nala office. I literally tell everybody we have that. If you don't take responsibility, you take orders, and that's exactly how Balali Kanza works. She's hard to work with, but she holds you to a high standard. Literally, I was texting her. She'll call me like 1 in, Benji, do this, man. Yes, Balali. I'll get it done for you. But it's, as Tanzania, it's an incredible pleasure to have you as our ambassador for the United States and Mexico. Balali Kanza was previously at the World Economic Forum, leading all the work in Africa. And she's got quite the CV that you guys will be very pleased by. You should look her up online, but it is such a pleasure and honor to have you here today. And for the first time ever, not the last time, share a stage with you. Karibu sana Balali Kanza.
Unexpectedly. Thank you for that. As is our tradition, I will kick off by saying nawasalimu wote kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. That wasn't loud enough. Nawasalimu wote kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Karibuni sana. Honorable Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, Minister of Finance and Planning, Honorable Ambassador Liberata Mulamula, Minister of Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation. Please, some of you missed her. I hope you discovered her. She's my boss. Honorable Dr. Shatu Kijagi, Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry. We have a colleague who has stepped out, if you recognized her earlier. Honorable Dr. Pindi Chanda, Minister of Tourism and Natural Resources. Honorable Simai Mohammed Said, Minister of Tourism and Heritage of Zanzibar. Permanent Secretaries and senior government officials, Your Excellency Dr. Donald Wright, Ambassador of the United States of America to the United Republic of Tanzania, and your colleague. Excellency Professor Kennedy Gaston was here. He has stepped out. He's our permanent representative he's the permanent representative of the United Republic of Tanzania to the United Nations. My colleague, Ambassador Swahila Mdeme, is our director of the Department of Europe and Americas, used to serve in Washington, D.C. as head of chancellery. Mr. Benjamin Fernandez, on protocol, founder and CEO of NALA and the NALA team, U.S. venture capital investors, including a new friend I met at Harvard the other day. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here this auspicious occasion of launching the NALA app. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate our very own Mr. Benji Fernandez, the founder and CEO of NALA, and his team for this great achievement. Who would have thought when we met at that airport? We met while transiting from Dar es Salaam. It was a great conversation, and that we would be here sharing the stage together. Benji, you remind us all that hard work and determination pays off. Congratulations. We're all proud of you. From East Africa to the UK, and now to the EU as well. So NALA is now operating in the European Union by France, and now to the USA. It's amazing. The presence of all these ministers, permanent secretaries, and other senior government officials in this event is a testimony of how we feel about this milestone. A short backstory is that I was part of the government team that was actively working on promoting Startup Tanzania at a time when the US was working on Startup USA and Startup UK. I was in the private office of President Kikwete, and just science, tech, and innovation was my baby, and it failed to take off. It was very difficult. We're way ahead of our time as far as Tanzania was concerned. But this is really what we're aiming for, and Benji is really just the first to get over that hurdle. There are many more Benjis and female Benjis too out there. We need to get over the hump and be part of the global landscape, and that's why it's an important milestone to make it into the US market, make it into the global space. As the Ambassador of the United Republic of Tanzania to the United States of America, I'm even more excited about this launch for the following reasons. First, NALA is a Tanzanian-owned company which has invested in the United States of America. I believe Ambassador Wright hears me well when I say this is win-win, right? We invest in you and you invest in us. You get jobs and we get jobs. You get revenue and we get revenue. You people get goods and services, and our people get goods and services. That's the only way it works. And it's a perfect example, and I'm very grateful for you gracing us with your presence here. So I can walk with more pride, knowing that Tanzanians are increasingly investing in the United States of America, too. It's not a one-way traffic anymore. Secondly, the NALA app will contribute to the increase of remittances sent to Tanzania by Tanzanians and the Tanzanian diaspora overall here in the US. There are many Tanzanians and diaspora living in the US, and they're facing myriad challenges. A key one that was highlighted is the cost of sending money back to the continent. Therefore, NALA marks a big step forward in this direction as well. It is also noteworthy that NALA is also facilitating remittances from the East African diaspora. And I believe, as you heard, that we have members from East Africa and the East African diaspora here present with us too. And this is very much aligned with government policy of regionalization, and so we commend you on that step as well. Third, this industry attracts a lot of investment And therefore, being able to tap into this industry, particularly from a VC perspective, is a critical milestone for our economy as well. For instance, NALA recently raised $10 million from the US VC market, which dominates the global VC market. And imagine the impact to our economy if many other startups were able to tap into that kind of investment. Allow me to thank 5 of the 6 VC investors in NALA. Some of you may not know, but we stand in the presence of nearly $2 billion worth of investment capacity based on their assets under management, right, to invest in tech in Africa. So we often look at young people and we dismiss them. It's a young industry, and there's a lot at stake, and that's an opportunity as well. Stephen Dent, if you may stand up. Samir Karpal. Aaron Cruz. Nick Milanovic. And Steven Nicholas. Asante sana for taking this leap of faith with Tanzania on this new phase. The fourth reason for our excitement is that we at the Embassy of the United States, of the United Republic of Tanzania to the United States of America, have already started engagements and conversations with various stakeholders of the ICT industry, both here in the US and Tanzania. In December last year, we held the inaugural Tanzania USA Roundtable on the Fourth Industrial Revolution with the goal of fostering collaboration between stakeholders of the ICT and digital and Fourth Industrial Revolution community, both in Tanzania and the US. And we saw great enthusiasm amongst the two parties in working together. Therefore, this launch also marks a new dawn in our commitment to the development of the digital economy overall, and will open more doors of cooperation between the people of our two countries in this sector. And allow me to also note that there will be a 5G regional workshop coming up soon that's being supported by the US Embassy to Tanzania. So that goes to demonstrate that it's happening on both sides, right? Both in the US and Tanzania. We're doubling down on facilitating investment and collaboration in this area. Excellencies, as a Tanzanian, I'm happy to see a young Tanzanian achieve such a milestone. As I mentioned, I'm a tech enthusiast myself. I know that there are many young Tanzanians who are working in this sector and they're struggling. You had Ben to express some of those struggles. I give him a hard time because he comes and too much time being frustrated really to work with coming up with the solutions and working with the system. We're a young country, we're continuing to evolve, and so we appreciate the feedback and the work through those challenges together. Distinguished participants, excellencies, lastly, I want to assure Benji and his team that we at the Embassy of the United Republic of Tanzania stand ready to support you as we expand the operations here in the US. Do not hesitate to reach out if you want any form of support, and work very closely with our colleagues in the US government, and we'll see how best we can encourage and build upon this inroad into this market. With these few remarks, allow me to now welcome Honorable Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, Minister of Finance and Planning, to address this August Assembly on behalf of Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, who would very much wish to be with us. Unfortunately, conflicts arose in his schedule. He is with us in spirit. This is very much about Tanzania, not just about Benji, not just about one person. This is an industry that employs and has the potential to employ a lot of our youth, and we're a very young nation. So this is very much about investing in the future of Tanzania, and she very much believes in the importance of this sector and the future that it holds for the country overall. Asante sana.
Honorable Liberata Mulamula, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Gun Cooperation, Honorable Elise Kanza, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, the US and Mexico, Honorable Maimone Said, Minister for Tourism and Heritage, my dear brother, Benjamin Fernandez, Honorable Ashatu Kizeli, the Minister for Investment, Industries and Trade. I also take note of the Minister for Tourism and Natural Resources, Dr. Chana, who was with us shortly. Permanent Secretaries here present, take note of the State Master General, Permanent Secretary to Treasury, Zanzibar, Mheshimiwa Donald Wright, balozi wa Marekani nchini Tanzania. My brother from the private sector, CRDB and all other representatives from the private sector. Okay, let me follow all protocols of faith. It is indeed a great honor to me to stand before you in this historic event, which was set to have the honor of Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania. She really wished to have attended in person to this important event. However, due to her tight schedule, she delegated this event to me and my colleagues, the cabinet ministers and other government officials whom we have witnessed here. But please get the assurance that she attaches a due weight to this launch and the prospects of this project of life. So she is with us and she is with you, and please get the assurance that even what you have asked, I, together with my colleagues, will report it without giving a sentence. I'm here to encourage Mr. Benjamin Fernandez, and your mother can attest that Fernandez family is my long and all-time family friend. So I was very happy to be given this opportunity to be with you. I encourage you, the founder of NALA, and the startup which facilitates the remittances to Tanzania. Mr. Fernandez and his team are the examples of innovations in digital space that we encourage as part of our efforts to formalize and digitalize our economy. This innovation will also inspire other Tanzanians, especially the youth who are involved in the ICT. These startups are important sources of employment, and they contribute to the national income and also help solve various socio-economic challenges. And my dear brothers and sisters, I can attest that this thing is real. You know, when I was here, I just passed my number to Benjamin. In a few seconds after passing the number, I saw my handset vibrating, that the thing has worked. So it's real. It is working. I was just planning to add some numbers for my colleagues so that they can also witness. But it is working. It is real. Yeah, and for sure it will assist. I think it will really facilitate. So we have taken and have tested it. As you have said, And as I said, I'm with my colleagues from the cabinet ministers, the permanent secretaries, the Prime Minister General, and the deputy from Zanzibar. I'm with my colleagues from the Central Bank, the senior officials from the Central Bank. We have taken your request and we will do them. Yeah, we will do them. Moreover, another app will facilitate remittances to Tanzania from the United States and the country in which we have many diasporas. I therefore congratulate Mr. Fernandez, your team, and partners on the Red Sun. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanzania is taking on all fields important for human development, including information, communication, and telecommunication. From the importance of the ICT in the attainment of our socio-economic development goals, the government has greatly invested in the sector. Let me highlight some of the investment initiatives undertaken to promote the ICT under this perspective. We have provided tax incentives on smart services to accelerate their uptake in the country. And this was the first directive we got from Her Excellency the President, that we have to design the policy measures which are in line with where the world is going. So we immediately provide tax incentives, and she has directed we have to revisit some of the other areas as we move into part of the conference where we will be implementing the directive. We have deployed the National ICT Broadband Platform that connects all regions in Tanzania, mainland, Unguja, and Pemba, as well as neighboring countries such as Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Malawi, Uganda, and Zambia, and also connected with international submarine cables of SEACOM and Egypt. We are also planning to connect with Mozambique and the newly submitted players with East Africa. I would like to emphasize that Tanzania envisions becoming a hub for connectivity within Eastern and South Africa region. I'm glad that the backbone and submarine cables have resulted in reduction of the costly backhaul, transport, bandwidth. Furthermore, the telecommunication and infrastructure being deployed by telecom operators through private financing and government subsidies have expanded mobile network outreach, increased the number of internet users, mobile subscribers, as well as infant devices, basically for the police communication. We have adopted digital systems in the country to enhance government business operations, public service delivery, and promoting e-services in various domains, including e-banking, e-commerce, e-education, e-health, e-tourism, and e-agriculture. Some of these systems include the development and the operationalization of the BRELA's online business registration system, in which you see the Minister responsible is here with us. The Integrated Land Management Information System and the Tanzania's National E-Procurement System. We have also established a mobile government platform and established a government electronic payment system gateway for government payment services. Through these platforms, other citizens are now able to pay utilities and other bills such as water, electricity, and others. Payment services in shop, hotels, supermarkets, and platforms for business online, whether they are applicants. The government has embarked on the establishment of national platforms with common metadata command to foster integration of all systems and real data sharing benefits. We have also established human pamoja centers whereby the government services will be provided in one place. The first two centers in Dar es Salaam and Dodoma were launched in July 2021, and the target is to have some 32 centers nationwide by 2025. Other initiatives that we have implemented include the construction of the National Internet Data Center and deployment of the National Addressing and Hospital. Similarly, the government is in the process of developing a digital economy strategy which will provide a clear path on how we are going to attain our digital economy. We are also continuing to invest heavily in the area of infrastructure in order to attain the set goals, providing reliable access everywhere. I can assure you, though we may not be like the United States of America, but those in certain regions of the EAC, we are said to be an example. So, with all this, what I've said, I believe you can even consider extending the scope of what you have planned to invest, what you have invested, and what you are planning to invest so far. Because you can see the sky is the limit, especially in this aspect. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the government has been supporting investment in incubators, accelerators, and soft centers, both public and private ones. We are working hand in hand with the private sector to achieve the thriving ICT sector and digital transformation in the country. This testifies the government initiative to work with the private sector toward achieving our development objectives, including those in the ICT sector. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to take this opportunity to invite U.S. ventures, stakeholders, and other stakeholders in ICT sector to invest in Tanzania. As I've told you, after highlighting which measure the government is taking, I have been told that you have invested a total of around $1.5 billion. Which we have invested by U.S. ventures capitals in African tech startups. I wish to see in Tanzania, as I've said, you start benefiting from this investment in more than what usually with these incentives, which will be increasing equipment, review of new tax measures, and the new financial activity. We have more incentives. We are said to be released the investment act, business protections, data protection, and others, which all of which will be intended to create more room for more investment to our country. The government is committed to promote and support research and development, innovation, entrepreneurship in ICT, as well as encourage local ICT development by providing incentives for innovation in software and hardware. I would like to invite all investors to be delighted in their undertakings in order to avoid the risk of abuses in all aspects. Tanzania is taking off. Kindly get on board. Asanteni sana. Asanteni sana wananala. Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Thank you very much once again.
Iya, hapa na bado na rekodi. Raha ya Kiingereza, everything inaenda kwa plan. Mule ratiba, maongezi yale. Kwa Kiswahili tuna mambo mengi pia. Tuna mambo mengi. Mpo. Nimependa sana, asante sana Mheshimiwa Waziri Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba. He is, for those who do not know, he is the most consistent minister I have ever known. Since 1960s, he has been wearing the same tie. With that said, I should make you aware all my accounts are Swiss accounts. I shall not be from I'm very happy for my friend here, Benji. I asked you to tell people what you did when you were working for the Gates Foundation. Also, for those who do not know, he is very much controversially known for being the guy who said no to a salary of $300,000. And when I heard the news, I was like, who's this guy? I need to make him my friend. And with that said, it has taught me and the rest of the youth one very good lesson. You should never just have a vision of the people only, but your vision for everybody else should be the very focus in the life, and he has done that. But I hope your vision is going to slow down a little bit on the sending money from Tanzania to USA. We would just much love the other way of it. We just want to send money to Tanzania for now, until further notice when, because we are telling our friends and colleagues in the US that we have created this farm of chicken and it's already profitable now, they will want the profit very soon. So, no, for now, but I'm happy for everything that's happening. We are going to notice and witness the first, not the first research, but is it going to be the first? Ideally the first. Yes, ideally the first. It's going to be the first transaction, and can my number be used as an example? I want to feel the vibration of the minister. Who is going to be doing this job? 07.
Giving away Idris's phone number, everybody. He is single still. He's always been single the whole time. Anyway, we need to pray for him today. Cool. So, all right. Now events are about parties and fun. I understand, but so I want to line through a little bit. So we did a demo transaction. So I want to show you guys a quick walkthrough through the product. It's 2 minutes long, and then we're going to cut the ribbon, which will be the official launch. And then we have a little panel session, and then the vote of thanks will be done. And we'll have a mixer session if you guys want to mix and mingle. Awesome. So the video is going to play, and I'm just going to walk you through what's going on. So this is a test transaction from the United States to Tanzania. So it's a product demo, so you can see a basic, simple transaction from the United States to Tanzania over here. So it's hard to see, but actually I'm going to click at the top, and I'm going to click my name and my phone number. I'm going to enter an amount, probably not $100, maybe like 25,000 shillings or something, because it's expensive. It's not expensive. We actually have no fees to send money home, which you should really look at. And then over here, we can enter a customized SMS. So I decided to write, oh yeah, coming to America, hashtag VIP, hashtag Nala USA. So you can enter customized SMSs, which means the recipient will receive a customized SMS to what you sent them. And then here it authorizes the payment. And there you have an animation that shows you the progress, because we want to show transparently where your money is at all times. So check the history of your money, boom, you see the Airtel notification at the top. But let's just walk through the whole demo, and boom, right there, it says your money has been sent. And you see I got an SMS because I have a local SIM card in my phone. And then what about love? That's why the love is there. And you can see the history of the transaction. You can also see the note, and boom, there are the SMSs. You have one from the telecom provider as well as one from Nala. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first demo transaction. So thank you all so much.
Nala is now live in the United States. If you haven't downloaded it, download it on your phones right now and test it out. We love feedback. We have our team up here as well. So if you want to tell us like what we need to improve as well, please give us brutal, honest feedback. Don't be nice. Be blunt with us because that's how we become better. So right now we have a session where I'd like to invite we're going to cut a ribbon to officially launch the product. We've never done a launch event ever. This is our first one ever in any of the markets we operate in. So I'd love to invite the Nala team up front as well. Yes, as well. So I'd also love to invite the honorable ministers as well. Please come forward, and the Nala team as well. And then we're going to have a ribbon that's going to be brought up here. And you guys, I believe, can build the stand there, and we'll cut the ribbon from that point. The Nala team as well. Mom, please. Honorable ministers. This here. This is yes. So should they go down? We'll yeah.
Yes. It is not a pulling game from side to side. It's called tug of war. Okay. I refrain from using the word war. You guys have created Nala app, and this is very complicated. Three, 2, 1, and cut. According to the speech of the minister, you can assume they have already cut the finances you're supposed to be paying to the other way. That could work as well.
I guess I became the MC real quick. What's up? So right now we're going to go into a brief panel where we're going to discuss African investing in Africa. So we have a few investors here. They're going to discuss some of the challenges, some of the things they look for from a regulatory perspective, some of the things they look from an investment and trade perspective. I thought it'd be a healthy discussion to have some of the investors sit up. And so informally or formally, I'd love to request, as we discussed, to move the honorable ministers just to the front. Oh, we've got a table? Okay. Never mind, just kidding. May we have our panelists? So, Marianne, are you going to introduce them? Great. Cool. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. The first panelist I would like to introduce is Nick Milanovic. Nick is a fintech enthusiast. He has spent the last decade working in payments and lending as the first employee at Funding Circle. He is the VP of Strategy at Patal and head of BD at Google Play. He is the founder of This Week in Fintech and GP of the Fintech Fund. Please help me in welcoming Nick. Next, I would love to introduce Stephen Dang. Stephen is a founding partner at DFS Lab and invests in the future of Africa commerce. He leads the firm's investment and has backed more than 24 startups on the continent. He also has spent time advising various global clients on the growth of fintech and digital commerce in markets such as Africa, China, and Indonesia. Previously, he worked on fintech strategy at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and served as an IP consultant in Silicon Valley, specializing in the telecom and consumer tech industries. Stephen earned his BA and MBA from the University of California, Berkeley, and is currently based in the Bay Area. Please help me in welcoming Stephen. And last and certainly not least, our moderator for this amazing panel is Aaron Fu. Aaron leads growth at emerging market inclusive tech-focused Catalyst Fund. Is a general partner in Africa-focused founder-backed pre-seed fund, Sephira Ventures. He also co-founded Venture for Africa, a fellowship for talents on the continent and beyond to gain experience and build careers with early-stage African startups. Please help me in welcoming Aaron.
Kuna swali nilikuwa nataka kuuliza kwa wale Watanzania wanaofunga. Nimeambiwa mtu wakiwa kwenye embassy, mle ndani ya embassy inakuwa ndio hiyo nchi ambayo mliopo, si ndio? Kwa ina maana Watanzania mliofunga mnafuturu kwa muda wa wapi? Watanzania sasa hivi sina muda wa kufuturu.
Thank you so much. Let's welcome our guests.
Thank you so much. I really am angry, Benji, for putting me between you and drinks. I thought we had a deal. We would be in that position. Guys, it's been really exciting to hear about all that's been happening at Nala. I still remember the first time I heard of Benji. I was so awed by his energy for wanting to create change, for wanting to create a new world, and it's a very difficult vision not to get behind. I think he's really put Tanzania in the global map of like where to invest in startups, right? When people think of Benji, they're like, oh, maybe there's more Benji in Tanzania. So really grateful to be here today. But actually more excited as well to be speaking with Nick and Stephen. So you already heard the introductions, very impressive people. But beyond that, Stephen is definitely one of the people that has really gone deep with regards to what financial services will look like in Africa in the next 2-3 years. He's gone really deep into Web3 and blockchain, so we'd love to go into that as well. Nick, I hope, can also provide us a bit more of a global context. He's been investing in Latin America, Africa, Asia, US, Europe, elsewhere as well. Antarctica, not yet, but maybe one day. And when Benji and I spoke a little bit earlier today, he spoke about maybe we can chat a little bit about regulatory best practices, how government has been able to play a role to really put a couple of regions ahead. I'm personally from Singapore, so we have a very active startup policy for sure. We won't get into that. But maybe beginning with you, Nick, right? Like you have a bit of a bird's eye view over everything that's been happening across the world, especially in financial services. Can you take us through a little bit of certain policies or initiatives that governments have put together to really sort of capitalize that startup ecosystem in these nations?
Sure, I'm happy to. And first of all, I'd love to say, Benji, everyone here, Jambo, Habari za Jioni, thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be here, and I'm really honored at the invitation and also the chance to get to work with the team over at Nala. I think people have a pretty good understanding of the history of technology in Silicon Valley and the rich VC ecosystem and presence there, which has been a force for over 50 years now. But with the growth of internet-first companies, mobile-first companies, and the fact that everybody has a supercomputer in their pockets around the world in every country now, the opportunity for that tech to grow, beyond Silicon Valley, beyond the kind of epicenter of the startup ecosystem, is something that people have only really begun to appreciate, I think, in the last 15 or 20 years. And so this is something that I think Stephen and I have both been thinking about for a while. Is there's just, as Benji mentioned, talent is equally distributed, opportunity is not. There's so much opportunity to build very rich, large, vibrant tech products outside of the U.S. and in other places, like Tanzania, where you have 60 million people, the 5th largest country in Africa. That's a huge market to build for. But the way that Silicon Valley evolved isn't necessarily the right model for every place. And in a lot of different ecosystems, public-private partnerships, this is kind of like a circuitous way of getting back to your question, are the best model for facilitating the growth of technology. So I think the Honorable Minister of Finance mentioned this. It's important to see public investment in private technology endeavors. One that stands out is Kagame's government in Rwanda made a $100 million commitment to invest in early stage technology companies. But I think even more than that, there's an education impediment to grow rich tech ecosystems. So when we talk about incubators, when we talk about accelerators, these are all really valuable initiatives. When we talk about tax benefits for technology companies, it's a very valuable incentive. But I think the bottleneck that we're going to experience is people are willing to invest in companies now. People are willing to support companies, but we need more and more talent to be able to staff these companies. And so starting early with education, getting people in primary and secondary school who are more fluent in technology, who are able to code, who are able to become developers. I think that will be a big unlock. And so to the extent that public institutions can work to make more people fluent at a younger age, and able to really create all these visions the same way that Benji has. If we have one Benji here, we should have 1,000 Benjis in Masaki alone who are starting their own companies, both men and women. But a lot of that is investing in the future, and that means investing in education for technology, in my mind.
Before you proceed, sorry, I would like to shake you up a little bit. I want to place that banner behind you. I feel sorry for shaking up the shareholders. That is the job of Elon Musk, but I'm doing it for a little bit now. Please do not place a class action on me. It's just a banner.
This is what building a startup is like. It's like you're already launched, but you're making some adjustments, like midway. It's like
you may proceed now, okay?
No, cool. And maybe turning to you, Stephen, right? I'm sure you've had a lot of in-depth discussions with a ton of financial regulators across the continent as well, and have seen sort of who has been more receptive, who has actually learned and read about, Web3 and blockchain. But we'd love your perspective on sort of like, again, specifically on the financial services sector in Africa, which regulators are moving a bit further ahead.
Yeah. And first of all, Benji, amazing to see this. I mean, we've been lucky enough to fund and back Nala since the very beginning. I've known Benji since his Gates Foundation days. It was very clear that this was a special vision. And, we get hundreds of requests for funding all, throughout the days of every month. And this one's special. And so very much a pleasure and great to see everyone here. Nala team, congratulations on getting to this point. In terms of regulations, I mean, we're in a room of regulators and startup creators, so you're really putting me on the spot. But I've worked with a few governments around the world now. We've seen, for example, countries like Indonesia go through similar phasing on developing ICT. We've seen it in China. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there are always a balance, right? We are talking about financial services. There are real risks. And I think one of the things that Benji and I have always had conversations about is we do need to balance that risk with that growth. And the Valley has, a certain way of doing things. It doesn't always work, like Nick was saying, everywhere in the world. And so I think one piece is that communication, and I love that this room is so mixed in terms of background experience, is that communication has to be open. It has to be as transparent as possible. And where I've seen most success are where regulators have been able to give startups at least a sense of what's coming down the pipeline. Even if it means that it might not be exactly aligned with that startup's vision, if that startup has some way to react, either to mitigate or maybe align with that regulatory practice that's coming down, that's been huge. But on a more positive, side of things is the ICT sectors in a lot of these countries, they are now growing at a pace that outpaces much of the rest. For a lot of the unemployment issues, right? This is a key sector to employ the youth of the future. And what we see is on the talent pipeline, there is a lot that both regulators and government actors can do, including making it easier to access both the internet and also easier to access the educational opportunities, either abroad or at home, to be able to be the programmers of the futures, the Benji Fernandezes of the futures, if you will. And I think between the talent pipeline and that core communication pipeline, where both parties are very honest and communicative about the risks that are at hand, that's where we see the most success. And I can go into some more detail in other areas as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to turn a little bit more to like maybe recent events in the last sort of like 2 years almost, right? And I think, Nigeria has made the headlines for a lot of very interesting reasons, right? Like I think it's positioned itself as the home of most of Africa's unicorns, by the way, Mandela, all from based in Lagos. But at the same time, so far, yes, of course. Next month, maybe. So far, but at the same time, it's also one of the toughest regulatory environments to work in, right? Like you have unpredictability, you have a lot of lack of communication. I think it's a masterclass, and as my number one advice to regulators is please don't shut down Twitter on the 1 day's notice, or please don't shut down the motorcycle transport in your city on 1 day's notice. Why is it you think that regulators have been maybe sometimes behaving a little bit erratically and a bit more reactionary to some of these changes and innovations in their ecosystems? Because I also speak to many, and many of them actually do want to do good. They do want to move their country forward and move things forward, but like it's been more reactionary than anything else. I wonder if you have any insights.
I mean, in the end, I think it's about risk, right? The regulator mindset and their responsibility to their people and the government is to prevent risk from going out of control. And startups have a way of building very quickly, and the faster something is, the harder it is to react to from a risk perspective. So I think that's what we're seeing. But we've also seen examples of this working out, right? So the regulator has a very unique role in setting the table and making sure that the playing field is even. And we've seen that in countries where there's been a lot of fractionalization of startup approaches, where the regulators have been able to step in, for example, in Indonesia, to standardize the QR payments for merchants, right? Where they've allowed the playing field to open up and let that piece of where the competition occurs to be more focused on benefits to the end user versus just trying to upend each other, for example, on pricing. And so there are various ways I think regulators are able to do things like, for example, set the playing field to signal where risk needs to be worked on from a very early stage of the startup life. And that's where we're seeing most of the success. Maybe another point to point out is, in Tanzania, there's the TIPS system that is about to come out, the instant settlement system. I don't get into fintech lingo for the room, but the ability for different actors to work with each other instead of only against each other is a very unique role that only the regulator can set on the table, because it is a free market. There is a lot of competition. But if we want alignment and we want not a zero-sum game, but a game where everyone comes out greater as a greater sum, I think that's where a lot of the work is.
Right. I want to make it to any perspectives on it.
Well, I couldn't agree with more of what Steven said. I think risk is the biggest factor to account for here, and so you have different incentives and different interests between startups and regulators a lot of the time, and you need to find a way to create alignment with those interests. So, building in Nigeria, working with the CBN, that's kind of building on expert mode if you're in fintech. And a lot of people don't understand that when they start fintech companies, even if they're repeat founders who are coming from another space. Is the risk of a malfunction with a bank account product is materially different to your life than the risk of a malfunction with a social media product, for instance. And that's the kind of user-facing experience that startups really need to be careful to preserve. So when you're building in fintech, the outcome should be Pareto optimal, in that you don't have to force trade-offs where somebody loses and somebody else wins, or you lose something and you gain something. It should just be a net better product for you, where you don't have any more risky financial situation because you're accessing a mobile-first product or a web-first product. But for regulators to ensure that startups aren't moving too quickly and breaking things that end up hurting people who are vulnerable, I think they need to promote, in my mind, I think what I've seen work well is the promotion of sandboxes, of forums, where regulators can meet directly with the startups that are building within the ecosystems they're working in, and then the creation of bank tech partnerships. Something that I don't think gets as much public attention is the fact that the existing banks in any ecosystem where fintech companies are building have an entrenched interest, and the entrenched interest is to preserve their business. But I think what that misses is that fintechs and banks don't necessarily need to be in competition. A lot of times, financial technology services, web and mobile UIs, actually augment what banks are able to provide by letting them reach new sets of customers, by letting them reach customers who may not be located within the radius of a bank branch. And this is just thinking about consumer payments and banking. There's so much opportunity by partnering with fintechs that's available to banks. That I think banks working with regulators to create these kind of partnerships between legacy and tech providers will actually benefit both parties ultimately. But you have to take the lens that this isn't a zero-sum competition. This is like a growing of the whole pie. And I think regulators are the right party to facilitate those interactions.
Amazing. I love that you touched on banks, because there are a couple of banks in the room as well. And traditionally it used to be that you couldn't go to a regulator unless a bank brought you to the regulator to discuss what it should be. They've been traditional gatekeepers to this, but at the same time, they've also benefited from fintech sort of rising where they are, helping them with KYC, helping them with a bunch of other things to optimize their operations. Where do you see sort of the role of banks sort of going forward with the rise of fintech? Right? Do you see in Egypt right now, there's a bunch of banks that got together to set up a fund to invest in fintech now, so they will definitely gain from that. But do you see banks in Africa continuing to play a more, I guess, introductory and gatekeeping role, or do you see them sort of like, changing how they interact with startups and the regulator?
I think banks always will have a role to play. I mean, one, they have the cheapest cost of capital often, so despite that, they have an advantage. But at the same time, I think what startups have been able to do is access a broader group of customers using usually interfaces or experiences that are both more modernized and easier to use. And so I think what a lot of the fintechs are doing are reaching a broader base in terms of the audience that the banks have, and the banks are trying to grow. I mean, even in the US, and I'm sure Nick can touch more about this, a lot of the fintechs still use banking technology that is related to the legacy banks. It's just that they've been abstracted away to a layer that's just infrastructure. And so I think that will continue to happen in Africa as well. It's great to see that the banks are now coming together and pushing more innovation forward. I think the more that they're opening to the idea that there can be partnerships as opposed to just competition, the more and more people will have access to these types of services that are critical to daily life.
Yeah, I mean, to build exactly on that point, every person should have access to financial services, period, full stop. There shouldn't be people who are off the quote-unquote financial grid. Banks have been the provider of financial services, for the development of modern banking technology. But banks need to adjust their models to be able to benefit from expanded reach, to be able to benefit from a more nimble understanding of customer profiles. And now with this wealth of data on individual users that's been created in the last 20 years, the advent of mobile and web technology, banks have this opportunity to grow significantly. But if the banks themselves aren't going to build those digital interfaces, they should be investing in financial technologies and working with financial technology companies that are able to get them that reach and expand with them. So what we've seen is banks like Barclays create incubators like Rise, which runs here in New York, where they're actually seeding financial technology companies that may eventually work with Barclays. We've seen other banks creating their own investment funds, like the $85 million Egyptian fund. And so I think the reality of the situation is that technology is a secular movement. There can be kind of fits and starts in the development of technology, but eventually a better method of getting financial services out to consumers is going to replace older methods. And so there's this big opportunity for banks to capitalize on that wave and move with the creation of financial technology. And then this is relevant to Scylla, which is one of the back-end service providers, to Nala, the advent of stablecoins and decentralized currencies. All of these can benefit banks if they're able to invest in these technologies ahead of time and really ride this wave. But our job is to convince more and more legacy financial institutions that they need to be working with fintechs, because that's actually going to be net beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually used to be at a bank, Standard Chartered in Africa, and my job was actually to try and bring more startups to come work with us. So hopefully that trend continues. Switching gears a little bit to sort of maybe your own portfolio, right? I would love to give the audience a bit of a peek under the hood when it comes to, obviously you speak of your portfolio a lot about which countries they should go into next, where they should domicile, things like that. And I'm sure sort of like the regulatory landscape comes into play when making those assessments, right? Should we launch in Zambia next? Should we actually go to Ghana next? Like, where should we go? Talk to me a little bit about how those conversations play out, and sort of how do you weigh the pros and cons of going to these markets?
Yeah, I mean, the regulatory piece is one core of it. A lot of it has to do with some of the consistency that we've talked about today, is where you want the company to be able to expand, but also have a sense of what they're going to be able to have to do in order to get the right licensing, whether it's a partnership, which is probably one of the most common ways today that it's happening, and who those partners might be. So it might be, for example, Legacy Bank, right, that they work with, who's looking for another player from another country to help expand their service offerings. But insofar as those startups that we're looking to expand can recognize those opportunities and then have a dialogue with the regulators there about what they should expect to be doing in order to actually have and establish companies there, it's very different country to country. And so the first question is always where the market is, and the second question is always what are the regulations.
Financial technology is kind of in a class of its own for having bottlenecks expansion based on different regulatory environments. And when you're talking about a continent with 54 different regulatory environments, I think there's such a massive opportunity here for cross-regulatory partnerships. If you're able to, leverage trading blocks to create universal standards for safety, for consumer access, for security, in the provision of financial services, then you can make it very easy for a company founded in Lusaka to move into Tanzania, for a company founded in Dar es Salaam to move into Egypt. But all of this requires regulators working with each other across borders to create universal sets of standards that apply to financial technologies.
Got it, cool. I've been told that we might need to wrap up the conversation, but I've also been assured by Benji that we can continue the conversation in Zanzibar in about 6 months in a big startup gathering there, which it's happening, right? Like a lot of commitment from, okay. So thanks once again, Nick and Stephen, for sharing all your thoughts. You'll be around later on as well, so I'm sure people will grab you. Thanks once again, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the best word to use is enlightening. That was very enlightening for a person like me, who knew more like 2% of what you're speaking about until you were done speaking about it. Now I'm about 97%. I need the other 3%. I think that was very enlightening, and thank you very much for believing in very young people like us. We are the most irrational people when it comes to investments. We have big dreams, and I speak according to example, as Benji is one of the first Tanzanians to have done a lot. If I was to invite my school teacher, would be the nursery school teacher here today, and I think this is a very great deal when it comes to young people who are being given the chance to actually explore very big things, and these are going to be helping a lot of people out there. Thank you very much. As I also would love to retain my job, I would love to mention and put my accolades on the Revolutionary Government of Zanzibar, Ministry of Tourism and Heritage, Honorable Simai Mohammed Said. I still would love to come into Zanzibar peacefully.
noticed Balozi Mulamula was laughing when my name was mentioned. I'm not sure why. I think that reminds me of her days in the 70s and 80s when she's very happy. And then we go, long live Africa. Let's try again. Long live US and Tanzania relations. Long live. Long live US and Tanzania relations. Was that the way we should do it? Yes. I think I get to do the worst job because all the good things have been said earlier. But I'll summarize in a nice way, and I can see some of the potential investors, the future Dhruv and others who are here are looking far in there. Something is happening. Guest of honor was here today, representing the Excellency, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, our mother, Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan. And let me recognize my fellow ministers, the ambassador, U.S. Ambassador to Tanzania, the ambassador, former ambassador, the ambassador of Tanzania to the U.S., everybody else. All protocol observed. Thank you very much. I've been asked to thank everyone who was here, and I think it's a very difficult thing to start thanking one by one. But to say it first is, on behalf of our two governments, we are very honored to have our presence here. A lot was discussed, and some were placed on requests. And I can tell you, all of you, there could never be a better time that our country and the two governments are ready, especially in the area of ICT. You can look at my physical appearance. I think I look like somebody worked for Google. Correct or not? And you can see the corner, the PS from Zanzibar. These are the people who are. You ever see me? So just call me the Google guy from Zanzibar. The Google guy from Zanzibar. So we're very honored to be here. And I think, and I strongly believe, as you had mentioned earlier, that Zanzibar, if you think of our president and the current president of the United Republic of Tanzania, both President Samia and President Mwinyi, we are ready. We need to know what are the demands and what do people want. Today was partly mentioned, of course, there are issues of regulations. Us in Zanzibar, I think Zanzibar is a wonderful place especially for the digital nomads who want to come. We are reviewing now all the regulations in terms of the visa. I understand some people are living in Bali, they're going to Spain, in Madrid. People need to move around, and I think the ideal weather conditions, the way of life, that lifestyle living, easygoing, having the first speed internet, I think that could be an opportunity for Zanzibar, but also for Tanzania. I was sharing with the Minister of Finance and asked, what do you think, how many Zanzibaris, Tanzanians are all over the world? It's quite a huge number. We are in Norway, we are in the UK, we are in Canada, we are in the US. I'm not sure in South America, but I think all these areas, Tanzanians are there. We need these services, the sense of belonging, to be home. It's definitely an opportunity. What the three of you, what you were discussing here, some of it, I think, as a Google person, I got some of it. I'm not sure I might un-Google the minister, but I'm sure we shall take all those requests, and of course, inviting you as well to come and share the common knowledge what you have in our country. And we are ready. And of course, the team is here to make sure that whatever was spoken, Benji and your team will definitely support you. The government, our two governments will support you, but the investors and the people who are here will definitely be the good ambassadors. You have the real ambassadors, but then you've got the people's ambassadors there. So we are going to support you. Let's give him a big applause. To finalize the work that I was given, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the investors who are here today. We have traveled a long way from Tanzania, and for those and the diaspora community as well who are here. So we'd like to acknowledge your presence and to thank you for having made the effort to come and join the special occasion of the launching of the NALA. I can see the CEO of CRDB looking far, and we are going, sir. But also to acknowledge the presence of Mom and others who are here, friends and families of everybody. Thank you so much for coming here to support this wonderful event. Based on that now, I think I've done my job. I'm looking at the far end, and I think I don't know when there's the opportunity, but I think people they would like to network. Much has been spoken, so thank you so much for everybody for being here. And to that, Mr. Benjamin, if you don't come to us, we shall come to you. Asante kwa kunisikiliza.
That was Honorable Larry Page of Ministry of Tourism of Zanzibar. Benjamin, would you love to add on to that?
All right, to wrap up, because I'm hungry, well, I know I need respect because there's some people fasting in the auditorium as well. So we're going to be transitioning into a networking and open session very shortly. But without heading there, I need to thank a lot of people. I'm going to forget a lot of people, but I'm trying to make it short and sweet as possible. So first of all, I'd love to thank the volunteer team that have really spent hours and hours trying to. Where's Wendy? Where's Wendy? There's Wendy. So Wendy, Marion, Ekwa over there. Listen, let me tell you something really quickly. Let me give you an example. I didn't even know them a year and a half ago. Okay, and when Balozi Kanza called me and she said we might be able to do an event in New York City, I said, who should I call? Right? Because I've never lived in New York City as a Tanzanian. So I visited once, but I've never lived here. So I called Nick, I called Marion, I called Ekwa at the same time. I'm like, hey, so I was like, hey, I need your help with something. He's like, okay, when? I said, in 2 weeks. Like, wait, what? I said, yeah. In 2 weeks, can we make something happen? But these volunteers really put time and effort. So thank you all so much. May God bless you. And these are, by the way, these are our Kenyan brothers and sisters helping us out, by the way. You know, that's intra-Africa unity. Okay. Additionally, I'd love to thank everybody who came out, all the people who traveled to be here. Thank you so much. I know it's not easy, it's also expensive to travel, and I really appreciate all the honorable ministers, all the honorable ambassadors as well for being here today. I'd also love to thank the NALA team for putting a lot of effort in as well. And finally, before I close, I'd like to thank God. Most importantly, for those who know me, you know I'm a man of faith, and faith is something that's really important for me as an individual. I'm a respecter of all faiths and beliefs that people have. In our team, we have people who are atheists, who are Christians, who are Muslims, and I love that because the diversity that we have at our team that brings us together makes us successful. And so at our company, for me, my belief is I believe in God, Jesus Christ, and to me, He's graced my life with opportunities that have been far beyond me and far beyond anything that I could have thought of. And this is just the beginning. And so I want to honor God by thanking Him for everything He's given me and be able to do. And this, to me, here is a blessing from God. And so what we do with the blessings that God gives us is our responsibility as individuals on this world. And so thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to hand over here to the to our MCs for the night. And respectfully would also love to enable the ministers, if they need to rush to their next appointments, to give them that opportunity to do so. But for everybody else, there's going to be networking and mixer sessions. So if you want to stick around and hang out, take pictures and chill, let us know. Idris and Mariam, off to you.
One thing I have learned from this whole event is the fact that I will never be given a position in the government as a politician. I have no memory to memorize all the doctorates and everybody into. I will just be standing and say, protocol resolved, let's begin. For that, you calling me ambassador is the highest position I've ever had. Thank you very much for being here. My colleague here, Myron, could you please soften the event?
This afternoon has really been a pleasure to be here. I met Benjamin a year ago, and I heard his story and how he has been so inspired in cultivating the talent in Africa and making a product that's built in Africa and for Africans. And so I had the pleasure of downloading the app and sending a transaction, and it was successful. So why don't we just celebrate this time together by honoring the NALA team, Benjamin, all of our volunteers and guests. Thank you so much for coming, and let's enjoy the networking event. And there's also food served. So thank you all for coming.
I do not think leaders live with music, but this could be the time for it. Just don't make it the national anthem, thank you.
Also, food will be served over here on my left. There's food, there's drinks. Say hi to somebody. Remember the hashtag NALAUSA. Take pictures, greet each other. And DJ, take us out.
I'm a superwoman. I'm a superwoman.
It's okay.